Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
I got the juice, nigga, I got the juice. Nigga, I got the juice when I about the coup.
I think that we should all have juice boxes.
I kind of want to throw my water.
Bill O'Brien wants his team to have the juice. And we got the juice here. We're not the almost team. Neither are the Texans. Or at least that's what Bill O'Brien wants for them. Hard Knocks, episode 4. You guys, we're back. Only one episode left. I'm really sad about that. But it's all right. We got more on deck. I'm your host, Christina Kaplan. I'm joined by...
Hey guys, I'm Stef Z. If you want to tweet me along the way, at IAMSTEFZ.
And I'm Frank Maiorana. You guys can find me on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M.
And I'm Lyndsey Wegner. You guys can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all things social media, at Lyndsey Wegner, LYNDSEYWEGNER.
Yes, and you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Tina Cap. So feel free to tweet us, message us, write your comments below or on our YouTube video, comment, subscribe, everything. Let us know what you think about this show. If you have any questions, we love to hear them.
We'd prefer 5 stars on iTunes as well.
Well, yeah.
Just in case you're wondering what we like, that's what we like.
5 stars or nothing. I mean, come on.
I mean, all in.
This is not the almost team, like Bill O'Brien said. But we had a jam-packed episode 4 here.
Yes.
Another preseason game in the books. We got a win for the Texans. We will discuss that later in the episode. But let's start with the fact that we were going from 90 to 75.
Yeah.
The start of the major cuts in tonight's episode.
It's just, again, funny. You know, I feel for me, it's the more and more we see this. And again, I don't know if it's because every year it gets better and better, but it really, to me, is it's like such the parallel of any business, you know? And it's like they need their crew. They need to figure it out. And you see there's struggles with it. So it's really interesting to see because they're like, all those guys are good. They're all professional athletes. Yes, some are shining more than others. And yes, some handle pressure and preseason and training camp, you know, better than others. But at the end of the day, they're all somewhat good, or they're all good enough to be on a team. So to have those choices to make, it's just got to be business at the end of the day. And I don't know.
Even though it's business, it feels really personal.
Right.
And it was a heavy episode tonight, guys. I mean, there were a few times where I was getting a little bit emotional. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to that when we talk specifically about the player cuts. But this is heavy. This is when it gets toward the end of the preseason training camp and the cuts are being made. And you see guys who have their lifelong dreams coming to an end, hopefully temporarily, but some permanently, as we saw in the episode tonight. So tonight was getting heavy and getting heavier. Definitely a tone shift in the season for me.
And even when they're naming these starters, and the other players that aren't going to be the starters, like Mallet, Bill O'Brien's saying they're giving them a day to get over it and, you know, get used to this. And it's football. It's business. It's just the way that it is. Somebody's going to be the starter. Somebody's going to be secondary, third. It's, you know, follows the depth chart. But it is a really, really personal and emotional time for us to watch. And I mean, we don't see people going to jobs and getting fired or seeing who gets picked over somebody else, and we're watching it happen in this.
I'm not gonna lie, the first person I ever fired was by voicemail. That just is a tribute to how hard it is to fire people. Like, it's really hard to fire people when you have people that it was
I had to let an intern go one time. My boss was like, okay, go tell him it's going to be his last day. I was like, oh my gosh, I almost choked up telling the kid. So I can't imagine what Coach Bill O'Brien and the GM Rick Smith have to do this every single year. Oh, that's tough on them.
And they've built relationships. That's the thing they say. They've built these relationships, especially with the guys that have been around a few years. It may be easier for somebody who's just coming in and they've just gotten to know them for a few months. But these guys that have been around for years, that they're deciding and saying, we can't keep you here anymore.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is tough. We'll talk more about it later in the episode, but let's start with on a higher note with Covington, our rookie, getting tasked with the challenge of catching a punt return, and if he catches it, the whole team gets to leave the hotel. So obviously everyone wanted him to catch that ball, and thankfully he did.
Right.
So that was kind of cool. What did you guys think about Bill O'Brien kind of making it fun for them? The option of leaving the hotel was kind of like up to chance for this rookie.
I think it's always fun to do something like that. Like, you see how people, it's like you threw them into the deep end, you know? You see how people crumble under pressure. You see how your team is going to rally around you. I mean, because at the end of the day, that's really what we want. The whole team wants to win. So they all really have the same end goal always. So, like, how can you support that person that might not be the first person you would pick to do that task in order to do it so that we're all winners?
Well, and just having Coach O'Brien pick you to do that must mean that Covington's doing something right.
Yeah.
I remember him from a couple episodes ago. He was talking about how that he reads Game of Thrones, he reads C.S. Lewis in the hotel room, so he's clearly a deep guy, and he's smart. But he must be doing really well, because I don't think Coach O'Brien would pick a guy to go make that catch who he's going to cut a few days later. You know, he obviously is probably performing really well. He was a 6th-round draft pick out of Rice, so he's performing really well. And when the ball was in the air, I don't know about you guys, but I was like, I didn't know his footwork was a little shaky, and I didn't know which way it was going to come. It really was. What do you think?
I know I like to run routes with friends in the park and stuff, and there's times where we'll do punting drills and all sorts. We run like the whole passing tree and everything, and from being quarterback to being receiver, and catching a punt is, and maybe it's just me, and yes, I get it, I'm a girl, it's a little scary. That ball is coming at you with incredible speed, and it's just kind of daunting. So I know that these guys are much bigger and athletic, and I'm not saying I'm not athletic, but it's scary. And that kind of pressure on you to catch the ball. Hey, otherwise you're stuck in the hotels.
Well, yeah, because you can totally get in your head on something like that.
Oh,
whether or not, this
pressure.
guy has caught a million punts or none, just knowing that if he doesn't catch it, his whole team's going to be pissed at him. I would be nervous. I would be scared.
Am I the only one that kind of wanted to see the reaction if he didn't catch it?
There was a slight part of you.
There was a slight part of me that was like, would they be mad? Would they rally again? Like, would they rally around him, be like, one more? Like, what would have happened?
I think they probably would have said, give him another chance.
Yeah,
I think they would have made fun of him though, a little bit.
Oh yeah, they would have definitely made fun of him.
Yeah.
But that was funny. I thought that was a cool little way to, get the team together and kind of a more lighthearted moment in practice. And then you got to see all of the guys go home to their wives or girlfriends or families and just get out of that little hotel and get some space, because I can imagine it gets pretty cooped up in there.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of hotels.
Yeah, but that hotel didn't look that nice.
And they've got multiple 1,000 square foot homes.
Right. Yeah, it's a different, but it was actually I thought it was kind of a nice hotel.
It was a nice hotel.
And I can remember past seasons, I think the Jets stayed in like a dorm room at the college, at a nearby college.
Hofstra University.
Is that okay?
I think that's where they used to play.
Of course, when I brought up the Jets, I should have known who to ask right away.
Yeah, she would know.
But a dorm room compared to hotels, not so bad. But anywhere where it's away from home for multiple weeks probably gets on your nerves a little bit. So they were all clearly happy to get home, and you're right, to their big, beautiful homes and their wives, and
Yeah, that's got to be probably the best part of football season in general, is when you get those off days and you get to kind of relax and hang out with the fam. But on to a little bit of a sad note, but happy too. We got introduced to Quessenberry. I didn't write out, what was his first name?
David
Quessenberry, who was diagnosed with lymphoma last year and out of the blue, found out about it, got missed the whole season, obviously, but thankfully is now in remission, so he returned to practice, which is great. But Bill O'Brien said after speaking with, the doctors that he wouldn't be able to play this year, and it was kind of sad, like seeing him obviously get really emotional there after going through all of this, beating cancer, fighting to get back on the field, and then being told, you can't play this year. It was kind of a little bit heartbreaking, but still very inspirational to see him out there and healthy again.
Yeah, I feel like, again, like I feel like I keep saying the same thing in a way, but like each season keeps getting more and more interesting with the way that they do this. We've got a lot of insight and a lot of personal journey on this episode. And I don't know, maybe it just has to do with the team and it's coincidence, but I really like how they told this story in the way that this is what happened, and it wasn't like a woe's him or anything like that. It was like, this is this man's journey. It makes him tangible. It makes him human, just like anyone else out there that might, somewhere along the lines have cancer of some sort. And I like that they showed it, and I like that they were honest with him, and he was honest as well. But again, I feel like when you're an athlete of that mentality, you always have in your head that you're ready to go. You always want to play. So for Coach O'Brien to be able to be like, you're going to play again, but not this year, I think was a very good place for a coach to be. And I feel like I'm excited. I'm rooting for this guy. I want him to be back next season.
Yeah, I was excited that he was like, well, I kind of want to come back this year.
Right.
And he has that fire still. And I liked what you just said, Steph, about this being a season that is filled with personal journeys. We saw last week Coach O'Brien's son. We saw that personal story, very deep and very touching to see that. And I'm sure that plays into a little bit of his reaction when he's dealing with Quessenberry. I'm sure he's well aware of what health struggles are and how tough it is to come back from something like cancer. And I was encouraged to see him working out. He's doing hill workouts. He's going to be with the team. So it seems like an ideal opportunity for him. But I love that as a competitor, he wanted to get back out there right away.
And said he gained strength from other cancer survivors.
Yeah.
And since McNair is a cancer survivor, that right there is just... that's uplifting.
Yeah.
He's got a great positive attitude. There's, like Steph said, there's no negativity there. It's all positive. And knowing he's going to come back. It's a bummer that he can't be back this year. He wants to be.
Yeah.
So what list is he on? You have this here. He's not on the...
He is on the
non-illness.
reserved non-illness
Okay,
list.
good. So
it doesn't mean that he's released or waived. He's still on the team. Okay. He's just on a reserved non-illness team.
The non-football injury
list.
not illness, reserved non-football injury list.
That's great.
It was listed online as non-illness.
I'm pretty sure they said non-injury.
Yeah. Just because he didn't hurt himself in the game, but he technically, I guess you could consider it, he's still injured.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's great that they were able to do that and that they wanted to do that for him. Because, I mean, they probably could have just as easy cut him or waived him, and said...
I'm sure there's stuff like that set up as well in the NFL. Like, if you're working at a place for a certain amount of time and you get X, Y, or Z happens, there's a way to keep you somehow employed, but until you can do the full duties of which are expected or something like that. I feel like it's gotta be something.
This isn't even a direct comparison, but Devin Still was on the bubble of getting cut from the Bengals, and his daughter became ill, and they kept him on the team, and now he's gotten better and has become more of a part of that team as far as playing goes. But yeah, there's definitely ways, and why wouldn't you want to keep a guy like that? He's got a great heart, obviously, and is a fighter. I mean, no doubt. He looks healthy. He looks big, strong. He looks good.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So he's definitely, and he even said he's progressed so much quicker than he thought he would. And like you said, Frank, that's got to be a good sign to hear him say that he wants to be on the field now if you're a head coach. Because he could be like, you're right, I probably should, wait another year. And no one would fault him for saying that either. He just beat cancer.
Well, I'm sure there have been dark moments for him.
Yeah.
When you find out that you have cancer and is my dream completely gone.
As a young guy, too.
Yeah, and as a young guy, and he's back, and exactly like you said, he's healthy, he looks strong, he looks fit, and it's great that they're investing in him to keep him around longer. And we saw at the end of his segment of the show, he was out there with the team in practice clothes, so it looks like he's going to be with the team this year helping them out.
And again, I feel like that's a huge like a tribute to Coach O'Brien, because Coach O'Brien can see that he's good enough to invest that in, but if this guy wasn't good enough or wasn't good, I feel like Coach O'Brien would be able to make that hard decision too of, this just isn't working, this business relationship isn't working.
Yeah.
So again,
what I thought was interesting as I was looking up today kind of stats and what was coming out about the Texans today, they were listing who was waived, who was released, and who was cut. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between being waived and released? I thought it was the same thing. And there's actually, if a player has played for less than 4 years, they go to the waivers. And when he is released, another team can claim him. And on the waiver system, it's the trading deadline in mid-season through the end of the season. And then during the off-season up to deadline, they get released. Released means a player or a vested veteran greater than 4 years playing is free when he is terminated, can sign with any club. So if it takes place during the end of trading deadline and the end of the calendar year, the player goes through the waivers. Otherwise, he doesn't go through the waivers. And I just thought that was interesting because they listed that 9 players were waived, 2 were released, 1 went on to injury waived, and 1 is on injury reserved, and then Questenberry is on the reserved non-injury. So I thought it was really interesting because I was trying to figure out, what do all these separate sections mean, the difference between being released and waived?
Yeah, it's not as simple as just like, all right, you're cut.
Right.
Like in high school, they're like, all right,
Yep.
make the cuts. All right, bye. you
Yeah.
know? So, but...
which is interesting too, because they have a certain number of positions. Even though they've only got the 53 at the end of the day, they've got a certain amount of slots for people to like fit into if it qualifies that.
Right.
So it's very interesting.
A lot of business.
Yeah.
Right.
All
And
about the business.
one of the biggest positions in need of cut downs is wide receiver.
Yes.
They've got 12, probably going to cut it down, I think he said, to 5 or 6.
Right.
So that's half of the guys right there that you've got to get rid of, which has got to be difficult. But we've only really been introduced to a handful of them. So I'm assuming the ones we haven't seen are probably the ones that will be cut. But we did get introduced to, where is he? Travis Labhart,
Yeah.
who was college teammates with our boy EZ.
Yep.
And they had a little fun down at the lake.
That was so funny to watch.
I mean,
Easy's this big, strong guy, and he's running away from probably a smallmouth bass, from like a freshwater lake, as his wife was bringing the fish, and like he's like, "No, keep it away from
And
me."
he was so excited, he thought he caught something, and it was grass.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "That's your worm."
Well,
and
he was
his
kind of-
casting was
So bad.
yeah.
But he was kind of like nervously excited because he wanted to see the fish, but then didn't want to touch it like as he got closer.
Yeah.
So it was funny to see the different emotions going on there. And then unfortunately, we saw him at the end of the episode. He got cut. Labhart got cut, but Jalen Strong seems like he's in good position to make the team.
Yeah.
Don't cut a third rounder in his first year, and he had the touchdown catch in the game. So I think you're right. We aren't seeing the whole wide receiver group, but I think we're kind of getting a good idea of who's going to make it afterwards. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, so we've got Hopkins, Strong, probably Easy.
Yeah.
Cecil Shorts.
Those 3 for sure, yeah.
Yep.
Short, those 4 for sure. So, I mean, maybe 1-2 guys from there. I guess we'll see. But
Hilliard, is he running back?
Yeah, he's a running back.
Running
So
back.
we've seen Keith Mumphrey do a little bit on
Yeah,
offense too.
yeah.
He went to Michigan State last year, which is my college rival team, and when my brother went to law school. So I'm not going to wish him ill. I'm not going to be mean, but I'm familiar with his career. He was a punt returner, big time. So I think they're going to use him on special teams too. So that brings us up to 5, and then there's going to be pretty much one more slot left. So
maybe, yeah.
maybe that we get to
Depending.
see next week.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think they look pretty strong at wide receiver. What do you guys think? What is your take on the receiver slot we got?
I think they look pretty strong too. I'm sorry, I still can't get over how Easy had a life jacket on.
Oh, I know.
I mean, like, I don't know, like, and it's not even that I can't get over it. And when you talk about players like this and wide receivers, it's just, again, to me, it just resonates so much, the bonding that goes on with these guys. You know, it's like literally they played together in college. They know they're competing for a position. You could tell almost that they know that they can tell one is better than the other, but yet they're bonding, taking Easy to do something he's never done, flipping off this rope, having a great time, feeling safe enough to like like do something he's never done and maybe scared him and put a life jacket on to do it. You know, like I feel like that's so much more. You know, like we talk about football and we talk about all these little things, which is super important. But sometimes, like the bigger picture of what football does, like that bonding and what people do when they watch football, what people do when they play football. You know what I mean? It's just really
it brings people together.
Yeah, and I love how they show that because it's like, what other thing are there two people completely competing for the same thing, and it's their life future, and they're like, yeah, man, let's go, like, you know. Not that they're drinking, but you know what I mean? Like, let's go have a beer. And like, people don't really do that unless they're on this level. And I think it's really interesting to see.
Well, they found a quiet place.
Yeah.
At the end of the episode, the guys were all out to eat, and there were cameras all around. In the background, you could see all the fans standing and taking pictures. I'm sure that's not really a comfortable way to eat lunch with your teammates. So they found a quiet, secluded spot to enjoy each other and bond, kind of like you were saying. But I'm definitely, my fantasy draft is on Tuesday, and I'm looking at Hopkins now because he just looks so good. He looks so good. Yeah, he made it look easy out there. So
Speaking of fantasy, Frank, what a great segue. You guys, we are so lucky here at AFTERBUZZ to have wonderful, wonderful sponsors that allow us to bring you these great after shows for free. And one of our sponsors, who sponsors this show in particular, just because it's, I mean, so hand in hand, is DraftKings. And where's our hat?
We have a shout out
hat
to my DraftKings. I got this hat when I was at the Super Bowl. I don't know that it'll fit over the headphones, but I'm gonna put it on during this promo.
Now, DraftKings is probably the best fantasy draft website out there. They have millions and millions of prizes. I mean, millions of dollars up for winning. $2 million for first place, $1 million for second. It's the biggest fantasy football contest ever.
The cool thing for me is every week you can do it again.
Yeah.
It's like 1 week fantasy means no long commitments.
For those commitment phobes out there.
For those of you out there that don't want commitments and you don't want this whole season of scoring keys to DraftKings, you can do it by week. It's amazing.
Just pick your players, pile up the points, pick up your cash. That's it. It isn't just fantasy, it's DraftKings. So welcome to the big time. Yeah. And we've got a special deal for you. If you enter the code BUZZ, B-U-Z-Z, you play free for a shot at $2 million prize in the Week 1 Millionaire Maker. So go to DraftKings.com, enter the code BUZZ, and get your shot at $2 million. I mean,
clearly, if you guys are watching this show, you're football fans. So clearly you have some knowledge about football. It's free. Just go there. Type in the code BUZZ, pick your team. You could win for nothing. It take 10 minutes of your time. You've probably already got it. Pick some of the Texans. Then give us, a comment or some
shout
stars.
out.
Some stars.
Be like Frank, pick up DeAndre Hopkins. He's probably going to get you a lot of points this season.
I'm pretty sure that you told me earlier, I don't want to steal your thunder, that the Texans is the #1 D being drafted for fantasy football as well.
I did.
So that's some free advice.
According to NFL.com, their defense is the #1 defense in fantasy right now.
Wow.
So that's saying a lot. I'm excited to see them match up against the Cowboys next week, which we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the show. But yes, like we said, go to DraftKings.com, enter BUZZ for your chance, $2 million.
You're jealous of my hat. I know you people out there.
It actually looks kind of good with
I
like
do
up
like
all
it.
it's
high
a little
like
bit
that.
high.
It's a little
Adds
gangster.
a little bit extra to your head, but I think it looks really cool.
All right, I'll do the rest of the show with it on.
Do
You
it.
know who else is really cool and wears some really cool socks? Our buddy Charles
Look at that
James.
transition.
I have
That's
to say,
beautiful.
I think he is my favorite person
My favorite too.
in the world. Like,
Oh wait, in the world? I don't know about in the
No,
world.
maybe not in the world. Currently, just right now, I love him. I think he's so funny, and he's got so much fire and energy, and it was great to see kind of the juxtaposition of him in practice. He had a really bad practice. He was really upset, really down on himself. Then you see him in the game, and he's on fire and just playing great on defense, and then getting what would have been a touchdown on offense as running back. He's just a great guy, and I don't know. Do you guys think he's a definite shoo-in to make the
Absolutely.
team?
Yeah, I think he's a shoo-in. I think too, you just made a really good point that a lot of these times we see these guys in practice not perform, but the guys you want on your team and the guys that once the bright lights turn on, like we saw this with Alfred Blue a couple weeks ago. We see this again with Charles James. It's like when those lights come on, it's on. And they're all in and they can perform. And that again, I know we've had the conversation a little bit about like preseason and preseason games. I don't know if it was on this show. It might have been my other sports show. But like how them cutting down, preseason games. But this is the type of things that people need to see because they can see when the lights are on, when the crowd's there, what are these guys going to bring to the table? And Charles James brings it to the table.
Well, I think when he can play both offense and defense and come in, play running back and get 73 yards or come in and make some great plays at cornerback, you're versatile. You're going to make the team. It's like the players that come in and do special teams and all of a sudden just rock it right there. And those are the guys they're going to pick up, and they're the explosive people that Bill O'Brien wants on his team. He doesn't want an almost team. He wants people that can go in and just knock it out of the ballpark. Yeah,
and that's what he said in the meeting with Charles James after the rough practice. They went and sat and had a meeting, and for a minute, just a second, I was like, what are we doing here? I know, I think we all were like, oh no! Yeah, like, no, do not cut him. He's one of our favorite guys here. So, but kind of like you were saying, he's versatile. He can be the utility player. He can come in and play offense, defense, special teams. And he struggled in practice. He looked really bad. He got blown by. His coverage was tight in another play that we saw, but the receiver still made a play. And like Coach O'Brien said at the beginning of practice, we don't want to be an almost team. We don't want to have almost perfect coverage. We want to have perfect coverage. And Charles James wants it so bad. One of my favorite shots of this whole episode was just that one sitting on the bench with this big smile with this football that didn't even really count for the touchdown.
It counted for him.
It counted for him. But I'm saying, like, he's just with the biggest smile in the world in a preseason game, and he made a big play, and it's hard not to root for him after seeing all that happen. So I think he's definitely on the team. Yeah, I loved when he was like bouncing around behind Bill O'Brien, like, put me in, running back, put me in. Like, he was so excited. And he's just got, like I said, he's got that fire, that energy that you want to see. And that play that he had when they tossed it to him, even without the holding, he still would have made that same play. Like, he got into the position, he found the slot, he got there. Like, the hold is great at all.
That's why it counted for him. I thought it was interesting too. I don't know. I think we discussed this earlier, but I'm not quite sure we've ever seen a player get called into any coach's office on Hard Knocks to be told, you're making this hard for us. That's why I think we were all kind of like, he's getting cut, whatever. But the Coach O'Brien was literally like, you're making this hard for us. Like, you're showing up every day. I feel like, did they not think he was gonna have the position? Like, why was he making it hard? Because I don't know. You know what I mean? That I was curious about that. Anyone have any thoughts on that? I think that maybe they were just teasing the audience a little bit to say, here, just in case you thought he was leaving, but he isn't. And he got treated unfairly during the game with the penalties because he got called for a pass interference call that wasn't his fault. And then he got that holding call on his running play. And he went to the ref and was like, hey, you ain't going to cost me a job here. You got to get the number right when you're calling the penalties. So he's really out there. He really cares. Yeah. I would wear his jersey. Would you? I like him. Well, we know who Christina's favorite is, whose jersey she would wear.
Frank, thank you for that wonderful transition.
Yes, go ahead. Take it. I won't even say his name. I know you want to say it, so I won't even do it.
Brian Cushing, my man. I wish he wasn't married. It's really just sad for me.
Come on.
No, we got to see great non-football stuff today with him and a couple of the other guys trying to spell. The best part about it too is that, Bill O'Brien's going Oppo and Brian Cushing is so adamant, like, it's Opper. What, like, come on, what are you talking about? Like, he thinks he's so right. And everyone's just like, no. And I love Bill O'Brien calling out that Southern Cal for you. I was like, oh.
Well, it's interesting because it's such a stigma that these guys are dumb. I'm not saying they are. That's not my stigma. I'm just saying that's the stereotype. And they were like playing on it and playing it up, I think. Because it's like, it takes a lot of smarts to be determined, confident, disciplined in order to be a professional athlete. So the fact that they were laughing at each other, that they couldn't spell spaghetti or opportunity, I think was hilarious. But what could they spell? knife.
No,
they
actually.
couldn't.
He didn't spell
No.
knife right.
N-I-F-E.
Yeah.
Wolfork was like N-I-F-E.
He said,
I thought they were like playing it up because
no, because he said I spell. I'm pretty sure he said I spell it like I hear it. So then JJ Watt goes, well, how do you spell knife? He goes N-I-F-E.
Oh.
And then they asked, who was the guy that they asked? They're like, hey, spell spaghetti.
Simon.
He's like, can you spell spaghetti? He's like, nope.
Yeah.
He's just like, what?
John Simon. Yeah,
Yeah.
John Simon.
Linebacker.
He's from Ohio State, so it doesn't surprise me that he can't spell.
Wow. Ohio State's
I went
projected to be number one.
I went there. That's all right.
Low blow.
Yeah.
Go Blue, Jim Harbaugh. Anyway, but technically, they're right that you can say opper. You can say opper, just O-P-P-U-R instead of O-P-P.
Well, I think that Brian
I just
was trying to
spelled it
say.
wrong. I just
You're
spelled it
the
What are
It's
you
like,
talking
hey,
about?
upper.
That's okay.
all that
We've
smack
each got
talking,
one.
and here's what happens.
I think the spelling bee champion over here. I was
no.
laughing the whole time.
I did all
Because I
that
was
smack
the
talk.
when JJ Watt was talking about the spelling championship, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got out for spaghetti." There was no, or he said he wouldn't have gotten that. I was the 5th grade spelling champion.
Spell spaghetti.
S-P-A-G-H-E-T-T-I. Spaghetti.
I wanted to see if you'd say it at the end. That was awesome.
Yeah, like an actual spelling bee. Can you use that in
Anyway,
a sentence, please?
trophies.
Back to
Yes.
TD.
All right, sorry.
But yes, that was a great little lighthearted moment to see these
Yeah.
guys like goofing around and like, I mean, a lot of people out there spelling. As I've gotten out of school, I feel like I find myself more often being like, wait, did I spell that right? And like words are not looking right to me. I'm like, I better double check that. So it was kind of funny to see them, be relatable for a moment and just like all of
real.
us. Yeah. So that was funny. And then a more serious kind of cool side. Frank thought this was awesome. He even rewinded it because I was talking in the middle of it. But listening to Rick Smith talking to John Elway about a trade, which is obviously something we never get to see normally, how it goes down. And it's just kind of cool to hear them just, all right, so you just need my signature, right? Not his. And we'll just, all right, we'll do it. Let's go. It just.
Didn't you guys feel a little bit like that was kind of like underground, almost not like dirty, but I felt kind of like
Mafia.
I shouldn't be watching this. This is not okay for me to be watching and seeing this happen right now.
Yeah, you're getting a true peek on the most inside aspect of football.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
You heard both sides of the conversation. I remember with Miami, we would see Jeff Ireland, but we would see him on the phone, and we wouldn't hear the other end of it. When the Jets were on Hard Knocks, we only got one end of the contract negotiations with Revis, so we never heard his side. In this case, in this clip, we got to hear both sides and heard John Elway negotiating. How cool is that? That you get a chance to hear a Hall of Famer and how they handle, transactions. And then they finished the transaction in the bowels of the stadium as the preseason game is going on, signing on top of a chair and then giving it off to his assistant there to finish out the deal. I totally agree with you. It was kind of like a peek, and you didn't really want to mess it up.
Well,
they traded.
The New Yorker wasn't surprised.
They traded an offensive tackle, Chris Clark, from the Broncos to the Texans for a draft pick. So,
okay.
We'll see how he pans out.
Which is interesting too, because
we'll see if it was a good trade or not.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because you see that they need to cut guys down, but even in the process of cutting guys down, they don't feel like they have the right guys to fulfill different positions, so they have to trade still, which makes it all just more moving pieces to this machine that Coach O'Brien has to man the whole thing, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and he even says, I'm really hesitant to give up draft picks, So it was it wasn't like it was a real easy decision to make to do this trade. So that was definitely a cool side of Hard Knocks and why we love Hard Knocks so much, because we get to see those kinds of things. And then we also got to see Mallett's reaction to missing practice and missing his alarm. And I mean, I thought it was commendable of him to go and speak to Rick Smith and apologize and stuff, but...
Do you believe his story?
I mean, I've had it before. It happened to me. My phone didn't turn off, but I slept through my alarm earlier and missed my earlier after show. So
tonight?
I missed my Dodgers one. I was really sad. I was really tired. I worked last night, so I must have turned it off and went right back to sleep, because I woke up like 5 minutes before I was supposed to be here. I'm like, no. But
I mean, I think it happens, and I think that I just think that it's interesting that we rely so much on technology that he was like, I went out and bought a battery alarm clock, and it's interesting to me because growing up for me, that's what you had most of the time. So it's just a very different. Like if your battery runs out, your technology goes down, you can be completely screwed. But I do like that he owned it. I feel like, and he played phenomenally in the preseason game. I got to watch the whole thing this weekend, and the velocity and the accuracy that he was throwing the ball was insane. So nothing against him as a quarterback. I do feel still, and this is why we've said it from the beginning, his energy is just very different than Hoyer's energy. It's like if you want to be a leader, like you got to show up to that practice, you got to talk to the team, and you have to be like, what can I do? Even in him fessing up to it, it was still in a tone for me that wasn't exciting.
And he even said it's felt awkward walking around.
You can't feel awkward if you're going to be the leader of the team.
No.
You're the one that's got to nip
Stand
any
up and
awkwardness
say what you
in
did
the
was
bud.
wrong.
Yeah.
Not even that, like any awkwardness. You're the one that everyone's going to look to be that point person to get everyone to rally the team together.
Yeah.
And even though every quarterback might not be a captain, in a way they're the captain of the team. They're driving the ship. Yeah. They have to have that courage or tenacity or whatever it is in order to come in and make it right. And he kind of doesn't.
Yeah, I mean,
got a great
Did you
arm.
believe him? Did you believe his story?
I believed his story. I agree with you guys. I think he's fully capable of the starting quarterback position. I think the attitude is the problem. And I think that's what Bill O'Brien saw. It's not that he's not a great quarterback and doesn't have the right footwork and that there's other issues that are stopping him from being the starter. The issue is his confidence and his ability to lead the team. And I think that if he had that, I don't think it would be a question in my mind that he would be the starting quarterback over Hoyer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I like Hoyer. I think he's going to be a great quarterback for the team. I don't see him completely taking over. I see Mallett jumping in throughout the season.
Right, but it's interesting you say that, Lyndsey, because I feel like what Hoyer has and Mallett doesn't, you can't teach.
No.
What?
But you can learn.
See, I don't
you
know.
may
I
not be able
feel
to teach it, but you can learn to be charismatic and confident and stuff. It may take years.
That's
to
what I'm
do
saying.
that.
Like, it's a lot harder to learn. Like, I feel like that's a character trait, like a personality trait. So it's like you can be, like, some people are either soft-spoken or, like, you can teach a soft-spoken person to be louder, but instinctually to always be able to do that is going to be hard. And that's where I see it a problem for Mallett. Whereas Hoyer, if they are neck and neck, he's always going to win. And he played a phenomenal game, too. But and he didn't get to play that long. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting quarterback. It's going to be very interesting
Throughout the
come
season.
week 4 or 5 to see what's happening with their quarterback position.
Agreed.
Yeah. Now, quickly, before we get into the game against the Saints, we just have to mention Vince Wilfork and showing up in his lovely cut-off overalls and cowboy hat and cowboy boots. I think I would have died and fell on the floor laughing if I saw that in person.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I loved the shot where Bill O'Brien thought the crew was just filming him and not the... He's like, go
The
film
players
the
are
players.
over there.
Yeah.
He turns around and he sees them. That was so great.
That was great.
It was so awesome. And I think one of you said, he's a big human being.
Yeah.
He's standing there in...
He's got nice calves. He's super in shape from the legs down.
He's got to carry all that weight around.
I know.
Your calves would be ripped too.
Yeah, no, that was funny, and I guess they didn't really tell us why. I guess maybe he just wanted to show up in that outfit.
I thought I missed it because you guys were like, I was totally enjoying it and laughing, but I was like, wait a minute. That's Wilfork. He's not a rookie. Like, what is happening here? But he just
Maybe it was because
he said, the coach said he had to
coming
stand
from
out.
the Patriots to the Texans, he's trying to embody the Texan cowboy status. I don't know.
Well, I remember when he went over onto the sideline, he was like, "Coach said people got to stand out, or this, that, and the other thing," and he was not standing with any of the other players. So, but again, it just shows character. It shows bonding. It shows I really liked it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so the game, they beat the Saints 27-13. It was definitely a great win. I was kind of bummed they didn't show us in the locker room after the game, because you saw at halftime when Bill O'Brien was like, let's come back in here after the game with a win. And I was hoping to see what he would say, like, I'm proud of you guys, you did great, blah, 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 or whatever.
Right.
I was kind of hoping to see that post-game reaction, but maybe next week, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
We had quite a bit of of production on the offense.
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins with a great touchdown catch, but unfortunately was overturned.
I mean, that was insane.
That was a sick grab.
It was a la Odell Beckham Jr., who I forgot to mention.
I know.
Played Madden with our boy Charles James earlier.
fun.
That was cute.
That was really cute.
Still don't know the connection because they didn't. If you guys know what the connection is there, or if they just happen to be friends throughout the game, let us know, because I was wondering.
Because you looked it up, right? They
I
didn't
looked
play
it up.
college
They didn't
together.
they didn't even grow up in the same state. They didn't go to college together. So I'm curious as to, or maybe it was just a plug for Madden since Odell's the cover boy. I don't know.
He was the number 2 draft pick in my mock draft this weekend. Odell Beckham.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They picked, that was the second person drafted in our draft
quite
this
high
weekend. So
for
that's,
him.
I think that's a
I
little
thought
too
so
high.
too.
Yeah.
Well, considering my Jets beat them in preseason at the MetLife Bowl this weekend.
All right. Go Jets.
Ooh, anyways, back on track. We had Alfred Blue run in for a touchdown.
Yeah.
A nice
Yeah,
little
over the top.
My boy
over
Blue.
the top, yeah.
He stepped it up. Again, someone that performs under the bright lights.
I think he's
So
going to do
far.
it. I know you. I know
Yeah.
you were saying Christina, that you were a little bit like you didn't really think that he's going to be a standout player. I do. I think they're holding him back right now because he is going to be a strong player, and they don't want to. They don't want to injure him. Jordy Nelson's injured. I mean, we lost him last week, and then Randall Cobb had an issue. Like, it's pointless to lose good players during preseason.
Yeah.
But why do you think? What have you seen from him so far that has led you to believe that?
Last season, I mean, he stepped up when Arian Foster came out. He may not have been the greatest player, but he came into a role that I don't think he expected to have.
Okay, so you think because
Yeah, but he
now that
didn't-
he's the starter, he's going to come in with a different mindset and a different preparation. Okay, yeah, I'll believe that. He actually performed really poorly last year when Arian Foster had to come out. So that's why I'm kind of pausing, and they're trying out so many different guys.
I think he's a sleeper.
At running back. So
I think he's
he
a
could
good-
he could be a sleeper. They have a great offensive line, so it's possible that they can get the running game going with him. But just given on last year alone, he really didn't perform that well. So
Yeah, that's where my issue is with him as well, because I didn't think he played well last year at all.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how he performs with this starting role now. Now, going in, like, it's not halfway through the season. He's starting the season with the starting job for the most part, I think. I think he's going to be the starter. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can get some production at running back. I'd like to see Charles James out there some more. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so we saw Courtney Brown as well. Kind of struggled a little bit. They said, the edge, he's not setting the edge, which is important, and the Saints got a touchdown off of that. So,
Which, again, you can see the highs and lows flip real quickly because he does recover that fumble that, and then it's all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you're rooting for him, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, you guys think he's going to make the team?
well, like you guys
I
said,
don't know.
he gets really down on himself.
Yeah, he gets
after
Yeah,
makes a
I
bad
thought he was
play.
going to cry.
And so
There's no
I think
crying.
on some level, Coach Vrabel was looking at him like, where are you going? He was walking away from the play. Come back here. Get back into it.
Take a breath.
It's interesting to see the difference between him and Charles James. Charles James has a bad day, but he slaps his hands. He's like, whatever, I'm going to get back out there and fight for it. And Courtney seems to get down on himself, and you see his confidence just leave him. And so I'm a little bit concerned for him. He's made a big play in every preseason game so far.
Right.
But he has to keep his confidence throughout entire games.
In an interview this weekend with Bill O'Brien, he actually was giving some great quotes, and one of the questions he was asked was if a player can change his mind in one play.
Yeah.
And he said, not with one play. It's more based on the whole, the big picture, a great game, a very consistent, good game with lots of reps that are quality reps that can happen. A guy can do it that way, but not in one play. So even if Courtney Brown has one bad game, this isn't going to ruin his chance.
Right.
Yeah.
yes, we will see if Mr. Courtney Brown makes it to the final list. Now, we have to wrap it up because we talk a lot. So we didn't really get to touch on everything. The last thing I want to mention is just that I love that Bill O'Brien said that he'd write a coaching recommendation for Labbert. I think that's cool. Hopefully
Yeah.
he can find a profession there. Guys, tell them where they can find you on social media.
You guys can find me at IAMSTEFZ on all the social media platforms.
And guys, thank you so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M.
And this is Lyndsey here. You guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lyndsey Wegner. That's LYNDSEYWEGNER.
And you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Tina Cap. And we will be here next week for the last episode, and we'll find out if the Texans can beat their or the Houston Texans can beat their Texan in-state rival Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I'd say Texans win.
Me too.
Me 3.
All right, I'll make it 4.
It's a
All
sweep.
right, there we go. See you later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later. They don't see us.
Herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.